how you saw the Renegades as a good investment all the way back in 2016. I mean, that's light years in the past in terms of esports. So talk to us a little bit about that.
It is, but I've always been a gamer. So for me, gaming has always come natural. I play basketball for a living. I'm a professional athlete. So my day-to-day has always been I do my job and then I come home and I play video games. So my life has kind of been surrounded by that. And I think it was in 14, 15, I started watching Twitch, and it had 2, 3, 400,000 viewers on some games, and I'm like, wow, this is interesting. This is fun. I'm playing the game myself. I've been playing Counter-Strike since I was 12 years old. I played Super Mario. I mean, every game you can think of, I played. So, I saw people watching Counter-Strike, and this is the first time I watch it in years, and I'm like, this is interesting. This is fun to watch. So I actually bought a laptop when I got traded to Celtics, and through there, I just started playing again. I started knowing, and through there, I started watching the E-League on TV, and I saw the Renegades. And obviously, they had a great team, all Australians. Remember our core players, obviously, and there was a big opportunity there with the ownership group changing for the Renegades. So obviously, I told my partner Chris about it, and it was probably a little bit too early at the time in 15 there. So we did about a year of research, right? You can talk a little bit about your first reactions to when I mentioned esports to you.
So we had a very analytical couple, about a year where we were analyzing the space, understanding the space as deeply as we possibly could, to potentially get into the space. And then it's funny how it worked out, right? We were going out to, I think, NBA Summer League, and some of the executives from IMG at the time, Tobias specifically, which that rings a bell, and we were able to meet with them and get more of an understanding of what the opportunity was and how we could potentially get into the space, and that's what we did.
Yeah, and this is a question coming up more so for Michael and you, Chris. You guys are 100% involved in this thing, hands-on. Esports is this very, very sort of nascent industry, if you will. What kind of goes into those day-to-day operations? Because I think a lot of folks out there, they see these big numbers flying around, they see teams getting bought up, and they see what these kids are winning. What sort of goes into that for a day-to-day organization?
Yeah, so for us, it's a lot of hard work, and I do recognize that you see a lot of numbers being flying out there, but any esports owner, operator is working their butt off. I mean, these guys, we give them a lot of respect, our fellow owners, because of how hard they work. And, I guarantee you they're the first ones in and the last ones to leave every single day. And we try to integrate that through our entire organization. We try to integrate that hard work with our players, with our staff, and certainly with our ownership group. And, when we have those opportunities to really shine, it really comes out with hard work.
Yeah. And Michael, as the COO, I wanted to say, what is sort of, a role of a COO in esports? Because I would assume it's a bit different from traditional sports.
Right. That's a great question. I think Chris touched on it when he said, the first one's in and the last one's out. So every day there's a lot of behind the scenes work that's involved. I'm in constant communication with our coaches, with our pros, with our partners, with Jonas and Chris. And what we do is we set a game plan a week ahead of time, and then we execute. And if we're not always discussing directly, we're always looped in on our communication with our emails or our phone calls. And what we want to do is make sure that we're meeting our goals and we're providing support to our pros and our coaches and our partners. We take it very seriously, just as a traditional professional sports franchise does. And when it's time to perform, we, as executives, hold ourselves accountable, and we basically set the tone from the top, and then that trickles down and permeates throughout the entire organization. And I think that the proof is in the pudding with our results on the global stage.
Yeah, and you guys are performing well on the global stage, especially in CS:GO. You guys are known as one of the top CS:GO teams in the world, and part of that also gave you guys a little bit of headlines in terms of when you guys made a very big deal, a very big trade. You guys pretty much cleaned house essentially. That team was picked up by 100 Thieves, but you seem to have rebounded immensely with the new team that you guys have assembled way back in December of last year. Can you talk a little bit about what goes into that, you know, in terms of how to build the team and how to rebound?
Yeah, that takes us back to, I remember back in 2016 when Jonas and I were moving our players in from Australia, and we had 7 guys we had never met, and we were moving them across the globe, and we knew no other better way to move them in ourselves. So we were moving boxes, setting up their house, so when they got there, they felt as welcome as they could feel. And to speak to that, those are some phenomenal players. Those are people that are incredibly dedicated to their craft. We're talking the likes of JKS. We're talking the likes of Azure, obviously Ustillo. These are players that were incredibly dedicated to what they do, and that commitment showed. And I think at the time we were ranked, out of the top 30, and it was a really fun process to watch that team grow. Basically out of the top 30 into top 5 in the world. And a lot of credit is given to those players and how hard they worked on that craft. A lot of credit is given to Kassad and the fact that he was able to dedicate himself to that team. And at that time, we had players from all over the globe, and then obviously our coach from Serbia. So that was a really awesome process for us to see that. I mean, obviously, as owners, that's the objective you want, is to be the best. And, to watch that process grow was really cool. There was a unique opportunity in the space in which Counter-Strike, as we all know, has grown to extraordinary levels. Some of the partners like ESL have done an excellent job, and certainly Valve, in creating that landscape. And for us, it was an opportunity where we saw a potential to maybe trade up our team. And so we were talking to a few different teams. 100 Thieves were awesome in that process. We give a lot of credit to their ownership group and their executives, Jacob and Nate Schott. That process went very, very smooth. And we knew we were sending our players to a great organization. So we felt good about that. Our players felt good about that. And then for us, it's back to the basics. Let's regroup and let's start grinding it back out. And we couldn't be more excited about our current team, our current roster, the way those guys present themselves, the hard work they put in, the dedication they have to their craft. And it's really an exciting opportunity for us.
Yeah, and you bring up something very interesting that I want to ask Jonas about. And Jonas, if for those who don't know, Jonas, you're a professional basketball player. You've played all around the world, including in the NBA. When you look at esports, not just as a owner, but as a competitor, what are some of the things that you think your expertise has led to the leadership of Renegades?
Yeah. When we took over the Renegades, that's one of the first things we said. It's like, I've been in a lot of good organizations. I've been in some bad ones. We want to be a good one. We want to pay on time. We want to treat our players right. We want them to have the best quality equipment. We want to take care of our players. That was like the first thing we said that we were going to do. And I think we've been doing that. I know we've been doing that. And, we take care of our players. We will always want them to be top of the world. So it's been going good. And we're excited about the future.
Yeah, and speaking of players, you guys pull a lot from the Australia and Oceania region. What is some of the calculus that goes into that? Because a lot of times when we hear about esports players, a lot of them are coming from the States or Korea, and now in many cases Brazil is an emerging market with esports. So why are you guys so committed to that Australia region where some of your best talent is coming from?
I mean, it started with our CS:GO team and the fan base that we took over. It was a great fan base, and our CS:GO team really built off of that oceanic region. And like I said, the fan base have been great to us, and we just keep building off that. And we've had some great characters come off of there. Like Chris mentioned, our CSGO team, we got some great guys that, represented our organization really well. So for us, that region has been really good to us, and we're going to keep being good to them because we love that region and we love our fans. It's as simple as that.
Awesome. And so I want to get into more of the business side of esports, because I'm sure that's what a lot of our Corseros here are interested in. And so when it comes to that business side, and you guys start having, content partnerships and other sponsorships, what goes into that in the conversation in terms of how we begin to talk about deliverables?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And I think what we try to do with all of our partners is we like to make sure it's a good fit between the brands. So our partners include Respawn, NVIDIA, HyperX, VelociLinks, and these are all the top equipment makers in gaming. And us as a professional esports organization, we hold ourselves to that same standard. And for corporate partners out there who are learning about esports, it's good for them to understand that it's the perfect access point to this Generation Z, right? Who's very influential, highly active on social, and really they're the most diverse generation in the US, and they're anticipated to become the most educated generation in the United States. So what I think and across the globe, really. And what I think it's great is esports is basically an opportunity for our corporate sponsors and partners to really get in front of that audience, which is hard to reach. And it's really comes down to a great fit, making sure our brand values align. And there's a lot of vetting that we do with all of our partners. And currently we're very happy with all of them.
Yeah, and speaking about, core values, I think that's something that a lot of esports organizations, you hear that term thrown around when it comes to team identity and core values. You guys came into a team that kind of already existed, but what do you think are some of the values of Renegades? Jonas alluded to some of them, simple things like paying your team on time, but what are some of the core values about Renegades that you think set you guys apart from other orgs?
I think it starts with work ethic. So Jonas is, always working around the clock, Chris and myself. And like I touched on earlier, we have a great support staff from everybody from Sev to Josh to Gilly to Christian to Tom and a handful of others. They're doing a ton of work behind the scenes, but the reason they're working so hard is because they know that we are working so hard. And so work ethic, integrity goes a long way, accountability, knowing that we can depend on you. And I think it also helps to have a true, genuine interest in esports, in gaming, because if you're not passionate about it, it's just going to be like a 9 to 5. And for us, it's really part of our identity. We're all gamers. He's a Counter-Strike guy. Me personally, I grew up playing Madden. And so, I love, playing. If anybody wants to challenge me, you can find me on Instagram.
I was wondering when the first
Sulaka.
challenge would go out.
Yeah. Check me out.
So, again, esports is continuing to grow and mature. That's one thing that we're seeing as the industry grows, is that more organizations are thinking more about outside of the field of play. So can you guys illustrate, what kind of goes into when a new player is coming to the organization? Are they receiving media training, or what is the process like for a new player coming into Renegades?
Sure. So we typically we will talk to them directly, understand again their core values, their work ethic, and then once they become a part of our organization, we try to get them as many resources as we possibly can. That includes training, that's to the mind as well. We have in-house sports psychologists. Gamers deal with a lot. Right. There's a lot of pressure on these guys to perform at a very high level. And the psychological aspect of that can be daunting at times. So just to provide that support structure for them, I think means a lot. And then obviously health and wellness, to try to make sure that they're eating right, that our managers, from our CS team is making sure that they have, the right meals on the table, that they're preparing for their matches in the right way, things like that. So it's really very similar to traditional sports, and it's evolved in such a way that our athletes are incredibly diverse in the way they approach the game. And that's really important for us to make sure we're part of that.
Yeah, and I was gonna say that's got to be another advantage to having a pro basketball player in your ownership team, because that type of stuff is intrinsic, Jonas, to how you came up in the pro basketball scene. So another thing I want to ask is that professions, outside of players, because we know you guys are an entire executive team, but we know, as you mentioned, Michael, there's social media managers, there's cameramen, photographers, there's all these other sort of parts of the esports industry that go into it. Speak a little bit to how many moving parts there are to an esports team.
Well, there's a lot, like you touched on. I think in terms of opportunity for people who are interested in getting in the space, me personally, based on my own experience, I studied business at the University of Michigan. And so my bachelor's in business has been very helpful in working in this organization. And what you can do is really kind of draw on that experience, your marketing courses, your accounting, your finance, your operations, your strategy courses. That's really a great starting point for some students out there that want to get into esports. I know some of our staff members, they're currently studying marketing at their universities, and we encourage all of our students or all of our staff to go and pursue their higher education opportunities. So I think the space as a whole has a lot of opportunity for marketing, leadership roles. And the beautiful thing about esports too is that it's inherently diverse, right? It's very easy for anybody to pick up a controller and play a video game, right? Traditional sports, it's typically separated between boys and girls, right? With esports, it's all inclusive, right? Doesn't matter what you are, who you are, but you can pick up and start gaming. And that's what really attracted us to the space. Talking with Chris and Jonas, is that it provides opportunities for everybody, really, so it's awesome.
Yeah, and before we sat down or talked about having this panel, I fielded some questions from some folks who were like, "Oh, if you could ask an esport executive one thing, what would it be?" And one of the most common questions I got is, how do you pick what games you compete in? I think that's a big thing, because we know that a game like League of Legends or CSGO, not only are they popular, but they're also very, very profitable. So how do you guys pick which games you compete in? Is that a part of it, or is it about what talent is available and how successful you could be in it?
I mean, that's something we do together. Obviously we're on watching esports almost every day, and there's new games coming out. I mean, you got Valorant coming out now, and everybody's looking at that, obviously. So we just make discussions in the ownership group and make decisions off of that, and that's what we've been doing. And we don't really get into a team unless we want to be, like I said, we want to be at the top. So that's when we get in.
So you brought up Valorant, so I gotta ask this. All right, is there a Valorant team coming from Renegades? Yes or no?
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
Okay, all right, that's fair. That's fair. That's fair.
To speak to that, we have obviously a lot of respect for Riot and their abilities to put on a great show. So certainly Valorant and anything we can participate with Riot is something that's on our radar for sure.
Yeah. And just to let the Corseros who are watching know, we compete in CSGO, Call of Duty, Rocket League, Fortnite, iRacing, and and what we really like to do is we select them based on our ability to perform at the top levels.
Yeah. And one last thing about Valorant is that Jonas, you brought up the fact that new esports and new games are coming out all the time, and it seems like every time a new game comes out, everybody, is it an esport? Is this a thing? What at least got you guys to look at Valorant and say it's an option? It's an option. What makes you guys look at a video game and say it's possible?
Yeah. First off, like Chris said, Riot's behind it, and we know obviously they're great. And I played it myself for a little bit the last few weeks, and I like it.
Okay.
So
Who's your main? Who's your main? Who are you
Yeah.
playing, Jonas?
Phoenix.
Oh,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Good.
So
Entry
I've just
fragger,
been
I like
playing,
it.
and I kind of know, like, if I like to play it or if I like to watch it, the general public is usually the same. That's usually, we just have discussions in the ownership group. I sometimes play it, and that's how we do it.
Awesome. And so another question that I got more than once was, what attribute would you say in terms of a esport executive, so not a player, but as an esport executive, would you say is the most important? And I want everybody to answer this one. Is the most important going into a new esports organization?
I would say hard work. It's the ability to grind. Obviously, we have players all over the world. We have coaches all over the world. We have staff all over the world. We have management all over the world. So for us, it's that constant grind and that hard work. And again, I think that's an attribute to all esports owners. These are some of the hardest working people that I've experienced in the business world. And it takes a very strong dedication to run a successful esports organization.
Yeah, I mean, like Michael said, this is not a 9-to-5. I think since we bought the team, Chris and I have been on the phone about Renegades probably every day since 2016. And I've been in a hotel room in Siberia at 3 a.m. making a phone call about the Renegades. I got to get up and we got to be on the phone or whatever it might be. So it's definitely not a 9-to-5. It's a 24/7 kind of job, and you always got to be available. Got to be able to answer questions. And for me, traveling all over the world, it's fun to do, especially when I got great guys around me, and we make it fun.
Yeah.
But it's definitely not a 9-to-5. It's a 24/7 kind of job.
Yeah. It's like they said, it's work ethic. You have to embrace the grind and really enjoy putting in overtime. So as the COO, I'm also the general counsel. So I'm responsible for managing all of our contracts with our partners, with our coaches, with our players. And so, it's for some people, they would say, you're doing 2 jobs. Well, yeah, bring it on, so, you really got to be able to love what you do and enjoy it and not look at it as work. I look at it as it's fun for us, and we have a great time doing it. Yeah.
And the ability to change lives too, right? So we generally speaking have players that might not be the most popular at the time. So we try to identify good up and coming talent and give those players the opportunity to grow as people, as players, as esports athletes. And we take a lot of pride in that. And, we've done a pretty good job giving people opportunity to really grow into something amazing, really. So
that really is one of the most rewarding things with this whole process since 2016 is the kind of players, the kind of kids. I mean, kids at the time, some of them are older now, but to give them an opportunity to go from staying at home, being in school or whatever, to become a professional player. And some of these players are making 6 figures now, to go from this to that. It's kind of like what I did in basketball, but I'm being able in a different situation. So for me to be able to do this for kids around the world and, showing a different new sport, it's awesome.
Yeah. By far the most rewarding part of what we do.
That's awesome. And just one last question that I feel that is, what is the singular biggest difference between esports and traditional sports? Obviously, this is more directed towards Jonas, but as someone who has been through essentially both and is currently in both, what would be the biggest difference you would say outside of obviously?
Yeah, I mean, obviously
running and jumping.
The physical aspect for me is obviously the big one here, but the mental aspect is the same. I mean, I sit at night sometimes playing with friends and I get nervous. I'm more nervous there than I was in the NBA Finals. I'm playing in a game at 11 o'clock at night with my friends, so I know the mental pressure these guys have in big games. You probably can't even hold the mouse, at some point. So the mental, strength and fortitude that these guys have that are at the top level is very impressive. And I think that's something that people don't realize because, esports is not a sport. Well, there's a lot of other sports out there that you don't need the same physical activity as basketball, but it's still counted as sport. So I give these guys a lot of credit. Put in a lot of time. You can't go and play Valorant and CSGO. You got to play one. You can't play basketball and baseball. You got to put your time into one game. You got to perfect your craft. You got to sleep at night. You got to be ready for the game. And I think kids are starting to realize that, and their parents are too. Obviously, when they see these kids are.
Yeah, we want to open it up now to the Corseros out there. If anybody's out there watching and wants to ask these guys a question, the floor is now open for you guys to do that. We got about 10 minutes left, so we want to open that opportunity up to everyone. But I also want to ask this, Jonas. You bring up something incredibly important, because as Valorant is coming out and this is a new esport, we do see players jumping ship. Right. We see players going from one esport to the other, and obviously there are some transferable skills, but as a ownership team, when you see something like that, is it more of a, okay, we need to go and get into the game, or is it like, if you want to go?
No, I mean, as a player, you can think the grass is greener on the other side always. I mean, that's human nature. But for some people, it's going to be great, because I think Valorant's going to be big and it's going to stay for a while. So, but for some players, you should probably stick with what you're good at. But if you got a big following and you got love for the game, put your time into it and see what happens. It's got a future.
Yeah. And going off that, there's about 8,000 high schools throughout the states now that have actual esports teams, and over 100 universities that have actual varsity esports teams. And actually one of them is here in our own backyard and is our official partner. The Oakland University Golden Grizzlies esports team actually practices at our facility, and we work with them to help them compete and win. So there's actually scholarship opportunities now for those people out there that want to dedicate their time to esports. It's a viable future for you all.
Yeah, and speaking of that and seeing that growth in the high school and college sector specifically, I'm gonna ask another tough question. Esports generally, you scout, you do the things that you guys do as an ownership team, but could you see a draft system entering esports anytime soon? Because it seems like if the pipeline is created from high school to college and essentially maybe to pro, I know usually they play young, but is that a possibility as guys that are executives?
For sure. I think that as esports evolves even further, from pro level to college to high school, you will start to see some sort of draft system or more of a systematic approach to recruiting top players. Right now, especially because it's so global, we recruit all over the world, where eventually that might be, I think we talked about the perfect dream is we run high school leagues out of here. And the perfect dream would be to see one of our high school players evolve and get a scholarship at Oakland University to get a college education while gaming, and then potentially become a Renegade. And that's that full cycle process would be really, really cool and something that we work hard to achieve.
Awesome. So I actually got a question that came in via text, and this one is for Jonas. Have you seen a player that can really have that extra mile of talent or dig deep with talent and rise above in esports? A lot of people see, your Steph Currys, your LeBrons and stuff like that. Is there you don't have to name the player.
I do have a great example that we did. It was in CSGO. We were looking for a player, and there was a player. He was at the time, I think he was 21, 22 years old, and people counted him out as washed. They said he was 21, 22, and he
old
was
man,
washed.
Get him out.
The guy was the best player in the world not long ago. We're talking 24 months ago. He was the best player in the world almost. And now they're saying he's washed. So we gave him a call. We gave him an opportunity to come back and play. And he ended up sticking with us, and he was with us. Obviously, we sold him to 100 Thieves now, but he's still doing great. He's playing his game. He's taking care of his family. So that was a great thing to see. Picking him up from basically everybody thinking he was washed, and then now he's a top player once again. So being able to do that for guys too is awesome, and we got lucky we found him. Yeah.
Yeah. So we do have some questions. The first one is, what tournaments are you participating in?
Yes, upcoming tournaments from the chat.
Yeah. So for us, and obviously with COVID, we have sort of somewhat isolated at times, right? So for example, our Call of Duty team is just performing off the charts. These kids are working their butt off every single day. And I think they're up to 14 wins in a row.
Yeah.
We'd love to get them over here and competing at the highest level against the best competition, both challenger, both series. So they continue to play. Our Rocket League team with Worlds continue to play. Our Counter-Strike team continue to play. It really, for us, not being able to compete in IM Sydney, our favorite event of the year, that hurt. But, hopefully as things get rescheduled, we're able to bring live audiences back into the picture, and that will have a very good impact on our organization. So.
Okay, and then we got, how has the pandemic affected esports?
Well, and that was sort of part of it.
When can we see the Renegades in person?
Yeah, that's again, the COVID situation continues to kind of muddy the waters when it comes to esports and all sports, whether they're digital or traditional.
We just got one for Jonas. What is your favorite team to play against?
My favorite team to play against in esports? I got a good relationship with Envy and Mike, so I always like to play Mike. You always like to play the big Cloud9 and TSM and all those guys too, and Complexity. Everybody in the NA. You always like to go up against and like to watch the games.
Yeah.
Maybe throw out a text or a private message if we want.
Awesome. And just one last thing that I want to ask you guys, what is the one piece of advice that you would give you guys for maybe some up and coming esports executives of the future, if you will? What advice would you have for those guys trying to get into the industry?
Work hard, right? Players hone in on a game.
Yes.
Right. So hone in on a game, really work at your craft, perfect your craft. The best opportunity is newer games, right? Because everybody starts at a clean slate. So if it's a newer game and you start at a clean slate, then it's just a matter of working on your craft. It's funny. We talked, with Jonas being a professional athlete, he's in the gym grinding every single day, working on fundamentals. So just like that, you don't want to be messing around all the time. If you have a true aspiration to become a professional esports player, you have to work on the fundamentals. Don't just be messing around with your friends all the time. So those are the things that are going to take you to the next level.
It's just like any other, athlete. Like, if I want to be good at free throw shooting, I shoot free throws. So like Chris said, you got to hone in on one game, and you got to, specifically trying to work at that game if that's what you want to do. And I mean, we've been at it, but you got to work hard, and it's your work ethic.
Yeah, I think they hit it right on the nose. Pick a game and dedicate yourself to it, and the hard work. You'll realize the fruits of your labor over time.
Awesome. Well, that's going to be it here from Detroit, Michigan. Mike, Jonas, Chris, thank you guys so much for this talk. I hope everybody out there, all the Corseros, have enjoyed the talk. I am Norris Howard from Checkpoint XP. It was really, really great to host this for you guys, and make sure you watch more video games. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Yes.
Everybody has a passion, everybody has something that they want to share and express.
I don't think I would do well working for somebody else. I'd love to work just as hard, but make my dreams come true.
Epicenter offers all of the resources that you would need to start a business.
Well, the space is awesome. I love working here.
They brought in subject experts on business and marketing, law.
Everyone here is very innovative.
If you want to start your business, this is the place to do it.
Hands-on learning is the cornerstone of what we do. Because at Oakland University, we know that with experience comes empowerment. Our engineering and computer science labs will be open this fall, ensuring your curiosity is matched with our resources. So keep pushing the boundaries of your creativity, and we'll keep empowering your future. Learn more at oakland.edu/SECS.